Move to the small bedroom in the back, my husband Daniel said when his sister Monica and her boyfriend arrived without warning, or you can leave. Monica smiled and said, I hope you can be gone before Sunday. So I packed my things and left. But only a few days later everything changed. Monica stopped smiling and started crying. She's not telling the truth, Mom. Please say she's lying. Daniel told me to sleep in the tiny back room starting tonight or get out. He said this while eating his breakfast sandwich like he was talking about the weather, not ending our marriage of 8 years. His sister Monica stood behind him near the kitchen door. Her hand rested on her growing belly. She looked at my beautiful kitchen like she already owned it. Actually, she said with a big smile, it would be really nice if you left before the weekend. We need to paint the baby's room. The papers I was reading about my new business deal fell out of my hands. $25 million worth of work scattered all over my shiny floor. I stood there wearing my glasses, trying to understand what was happening. This big apartment with huge windows that showed the whole city belonged to me. I paid for every inch of it by working very hard for 16 years. I missed birthdays and holidays. I worked when everyone else was sleeping. Wait a second, I said. My voice sounded calm, but inside my chest felt empty and strange. Before we go further into this story, if someone ever treated you badly or thought you weren't important, please think about subscribing. Your support helps share stories about standing up for yourself. Daniel didn't even look at me. He kept spreading butter on his bread. Monica and her boyfriend Rick need a safe place while they wait for their baby. The big bedroom has lots of space. The bathroom next to it is important because Monica gets sick in the mornings. He talked like he practiced what to say. Maybe while I was at my work meeting last night that ended very late. I'm 41 years old. I built a company that most women from my mom's time couldn't even dream about. My company called Chen Business Solutions has 15 people who need me to be a good leader. Just this morning I called my mom in California to tell her about the big business deal. She was so proud. She told her friend Barbara next door. My daughter Emma runs her own company with 15 workers. Barbara, who thinks women should just help their husbands, didn't say anything after that. Now I stood in the kitchen I fixed up with special stones and fancy appliances from Europe. I watched my husband, the man I helped pass his tests to become a designer. I paid his school bills. I helped him get better jobs through people I knew. Now he was kicking me out of my own home like I was nobody. Daniel, I said. I put down my coffee cup very carefully. The expensive cup made a tiny click sound on the counter. This is my home. I own this apartment. We're married, he said. Finally he looked at me. His eyes were cold. That makes it our home. Family needs help first. Monica walked deeper into the kitchen. Her fingers touched my special cabinets. These will be perfect for storing baby food, she said quietly. She was already pretending I didn't live there. Her boyfriend Rick came in carrying 2 big suitcases. His long hair was tied up in a bun. He nodded at me like I worked at a hotel. I have a big meeting at 4 o'clock, I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. All the company bosses will be there. We're helping them fix their whole business in other countries. Then you should pack your things fast, Monica said in a sweet voice. Her hand kept rubbing circles on her belly. We need to get ready before my doctor appointment at 3 o'clock. This was crazy. This morning I woke up as Emma Chen, owner of a $3 million apartment. A woman who was in a magazine last month about successful business ladies. Now they were telling me to pack my stuff like a teenager getting kicked out. Daniel went back to making his breakfast. He added tomato slices like he was doing surgery. This was the same man who promised to love me when we got married. Who drank fancy wine with me when I got my first huge client. Who kissed me in this same kitchen just 2 weeks ago. Your job didn't give you the promotion again, did they? The words came out before I could stop them. His face got tight. That has nothing to do with this. But it had everything to do with this. For 4 years Daniel watched younger people get better jobs than him. He went to parties where people asked about my business first and his work second. He smiled when people talked about my magazine article while he drank his drink quietly. Mrs. Chen, Monica started calling me by my last name recently even though we're family. The moving people will need to get into the big closet. Can you give them your keys? Moving people. They already called movers before telling me. I looked at the business papers on the floor. Each one meant my workers would be safe. My company would grow. Proved all the risks I took were worth it. My phone buzzed with a message from my helper at work. The Boston team said yes for 4 o'clock. They're excited about working together. Have meetings, I said. I wasn't sure who I was talking to. I have things I promised to do. Cancel them, Daniel said. He bit into his perfectly made sandwich. Or work from a hotel. You love hotels, remember? All those business trips. The blame was there even though he didn't say it. All those nights building my company instead of being a good wife. All those conferences and client dinners that paid for this apartment. His BMW, the nice life he got used to. Rick had started measuring the living room with his phone. Probably thinking about where their furniture would go. My furniture. I found each piece at art shows and sales. Each one showed I was successful. The guest room, Daniel started. Is a closet with a bed that folds into the wall, I finished. It's temporary, he said. But his eyes said it wasn't. Just until they get comfortable. Monica laughed. A tinkling sound that made my skin feel weird. Oh, Daniel, stop pretending. We all know this is better for everyone. Emma's always working anyway. She barely sleeps here. Barely sleeps here. The home where I had a whole room full of rare books. Where I made a safe place away from my hard work. Where I thought I was building a life with someone who cared about me as more than a bank account. My phone rang. Stephen Park's name showed up on the screen. The boss from Tokyo who'd been asking me for 8 months to take a job that would pay me 4 times more money. I said no to him 4 times because Daniel begged me to stay in Seattle. He promised we were partners. He said our life here was everything to him. I didn't answer. But something in my chest moved like the ground shaking before an earthquake. The quiet after Stephen's call felt heavy. I put my phone in my pocket. That mischance felt like a rock. Monica had moved to the windows. Her shadow stood against the morning light. She was figuring out how much space there was, like someone checking prices. Rick, come look at this view, she called to her boyfriend who was still dragging luggage through my front hall. We could put the baby's play area right here where the sun comes in the morning. My special coffee machine that I bought from France after my first huge deal caught her eye next. She touched its shiny metal like it was already hers. The machine that made my early morning coffee. My late night work sessions. My small piece of control in crazy days. Now it was just another thing on her list. Rick finally came all the way in. I noticed he wore those loose shirts that say I'm creative but really just mean I don't want a real job. His hair was pulled into that silly bun. He acted like he was confident but he'd never actually built anything real. This space has amazing possibilities. He announced like anyone cared what he thought. Once we fix the energy and create proper good feelings, it'll be perfect for raising a special child. A special child in my apartment that I bought with money from helping big companies solve problems while Rick was probably at drum circles pretending it was work. The movers will be here at 1 o'clock, Monica said. Not to me but to Daniel like I was already gone. I've told them to set up the baby furniture in the big bedroom right away. Baby furniture. My voice cracked a little. You already bought baby furniture. She turned to me with that patient look people use with slow kids or difficult workers. We've been planning this for many months, Emma. Daniel didn't tell you. Many months. The word hit me in the chest like a real thing. I had to grab the counter to stay standing. I looked at Daniel, searching his face for surprise. For anything that showed this wasn't the betrayal it seemed to be. But he suddenly became very interested in the sink, cleaning it like he was doing something very important. How many months? Yes. Though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Since we found out about the baby, Rick said helpfully. He didn't seem to notice how tense everything was. 9 months ago. Monica wanted everything perfect before telling you about the move. 9 months of secret planning. 9 months of my husband plotting with his sister while sleeping next to me every night. 9 months of lies wrapped up in normal mornings, regular dinners, and I love yous that meant nothing. Show me the guest room, I heard myself say. The words felt strange in my mouth. They actually all smiled like I'd finally agreed to be smart. Monica led the way confidently. Her fancy shoes clicked on my wood floors. Daniel followed, still not looking at me. Rick came last, typing on his phone like he had important things to do. The walk down my hallway felt like going to a funeral. We passed my home office where the business papers still lay on the floor. We passed the library I made from an extra bedroom, filled with rare books and signed copies from writers I met. We passed the bathroom I fixed up with a special Japanese bathtub, my one treat after a really hard year of building my business. Here we are, Monica announced. She pushed open the door to what used to be our storage room. The space was maybe 8 by 10 feet. A bed that folded into the wall took up most of it. The bed looked like it hadn't been opened in years. The one window faced the building's big metal machines. A view of gray machinery and pipes. Wait, I'd forgotten there was carpet in here. It was beige and probably from when the building was built in the 90s. The smell hit me right away. Dust, old paint, and something else. Something like losing. It's perfect for what you need, Monica said. I wanted to ask how she could possibly know what I needed. No distractions for all that work you do. Rick poked his head in, looked around, and nodded like he approved. Very peaceful. You could really meditate in here. A meditation practice in a room that smelled like broken dreams and looked like a prison cell with a window. The bathroom is down the hall, Daniel finally spoke. His voice was carefully blank. You'll share it with guests when we have people over. When we have people over. Already talking like I wasn't part of hosting or even living here. Where will I put my clothes? Yes. There was no closet. There's an old wardrobe in the basement storage, Monica offered brightly. We could have someone bring it up. Very old-fashioned, very authentic. I stood in the doorway of that sad room. My body blocked them from leaving. I felt something important snap inside me. Not break. Breaking means something is damaged or weak. This was more like cutting a rope. Cutting something that held me back. The part of me that made myself smaller, that made excuses for Daniel's feelings and his family's bad treatment, it just stopped existing. I need to make some phone calls, I said. I stepped aside to let them pass. Course, Monica chirped. She was already moving back toward the big bedroom. My bedroom. Take all the time you need. Within reason, though. The movers will need to get to everything. Daniel stayed for a moment. Maybe he felt the change in me. The missing wife who would normally argue and try to find middle ground. But when I looked at him, really looked at him for the first time since this attack began, he flinched. Then he hurried after his sister. I stood alone in that cramped room. I could hear their voices from the other end of the apartment. Monica was describing where the crib would go. How they'd need to make the windows safe. How the big closet would be perfect for all the baby stuff. My big closet where my clothes hung in organized rows. Where my shoes sat on special shelves. Where I'd put a full-length mirror that cost more than most people's rent. My phone buzzed. An email from my work helper about the afternoon meeting. Another from the Boston company saying yes to our meeting. A text from my mom asking how my morning was going. The normal world kept spinning while mine had stopped, turned backward, started spinning in a completely different direction. I walked to that sad window. I looked out at the metal machines. I made a decision. Not an emotional, quick decision they probably expected. Not the tearful acceptance they'd planned for. Something else entirely. Something that would need the same smart thinking I used for fixing big companies. Except this time I'd be fixing my entire life. The sound of furniture being moved echoed from the big bedroom. My furniture. My life being rearranged for people who saw me as something in the way in my own home. I pulled out my phone and found Stephen Park's contact. My finger hung over the call button as Monica's laugh drifted down the hallway. Bright, confident, winning. The laugh of someone who thought she'd won. Who couldn't imagine that kicking me out might be the biggest mistake of her spoiled life. My finger stayed over Stephen's contact as the morning sun moved across the guest room's ugly carpet. Instead of calling, I put the phone down and made a different choice. One that would change everything. If they wanted to play games with my life, I needed to understand the rules they'd been playing by. The apartment was quiet at 7 in the morning. Monica and Rick wouldn't wake up before 11. People without real jobs rarely did. Daniel had left for his office an hour ago, kissing my cheek like checking off a daily task. I walked barefoot through my home, feeling like a stranger in rooms I'd personally designed. I went to my office where our shared computer waited. Daniel had never been good with technology. His passwords were his birthday and our anniversary. Dates that apparently meant so little to him that using them for security felt right. He opened his email. My fingers were steady despite the betrayal I was about to find. The inbox loaded. There it was. Folder called Family Help. My stomach turned at the innocent name for what I knew would be anything but. The first email was from 4 months ago. Monica had written, "Danny, she won't fight us if we do it right. You know how Emma is. She hates drama. Just tell her it's temporary and she'll accept it." Daniel's response made my hands shake. "You're right. She has lots of money anyway. The business is doing great. She won't even notice the money change. Plus she avoids fights like crazy. We can make this work." Money change. Like I was a budget item to be adjusted. I scrolled through weeks of planning. Each message was another cut. They talked about timing. Waiting until after my biggest deal closed so I'd be too busy to fight back properly. They'd planned the approach. Sudden and firm. Giving me no time to defend myself. Monica had even looked up tenant laws. She decided that as Daniel's wife, I had almost no rights if he chose to help his pregnant family member in need. One message from 3 weeks ago stopped my breathing completely. Daniel had written, "I've been thinking about the money situation. Emma must have family money she hasn't mentioned. No one builds a business that fast without starting money. Her mom died years ago. There had to be insurance money. I'll investigate." My phone rang, breaking the morning silence. My mom's picture appeared on the screen. Photo from last Christmas. Her wearing the soft sweater I sent, smiling next to her small tree in California. "Morning, Mom," I answered. I tried to make my voice sound normal. "Emma honey, something strange happened yesterday." Her voice had that worried shake that came when she sensed trouble. "Daniel called me. He was asking about your mother's insurance policy. Wanting to know if there were investments we hadn't told him about." The room spun a little. "What did you tell him?" "The truth. That your mother's insurance barely covered her final hospital bills and the funeral. You know that, sweetheart. We used every penny for her cancer treatment." He paused. I could picture her in her small kitchen, holding her coffee cup with both hands. Why would Daniel ask about that after 9 years? "He's confused about some money planning," I lied smoothly. "Don't worry about it. Emma," her voice got sharp with mother's intuition. "What's really happening? You sound different." I couldn't tell her that her son-in-law was digging through our family tragedy looking for gold that didn't exist. That he was so sure I had hidden money. He was willing to bother my mom with questions about her dead wife's money. "Everything's fine, Mom. I need to go. Early meeting." After hanging up, I went back to the emails. But my vision was blurring. Not with tears. Those would come later. But with anger. Pure crystal anger that made everything suddenly clear. They hadn't just planned to take my home. They'd planned to check my entire life for things they could claim. A new message appeared in Daniel's inbox as I watched. From Monica. "The movers are ready for 1 o'clock. Once her stuff is in the guest room, phase 2 starts. Dad's lawyer says if she abandons the home, it makes Danny's position stronger for dividing everything." Dividing everything. They were planning for a divorce I hadn't even thought about. Making me look like the one who abandoned the marriage by leaving the home they were forcing me out of. I took pictures of everything. I emailed the proof to my personal account with the same careful attention I used for company audits. Then I cleared the computer history. Let them think their secret was still safe. Back in the guest room, I opened my filing cabinet. I was looking for normal documents but found something else. The Park Industries folder sat there like a light. Stephen Park had chased me for months. offering a job that would pay me 5 times my current money. Chief Planning Officer for their Asian growth. Based in Tokyo. With a payment package that included a bay apartment and a car with a driver. I said no 8 months ago. I sat in this very room when it was still just storage. Daniel stood behind me, his hands on my shoulders. He told me how much Seattle meant to us. How we were building something special here. Our life is here, Emma, he'd said. Our future is here. Our future. He'd already been talking to Monica about moving her in when he said those words. The doorbell rang. It interrupted my spiral into discovery. Jessica stood in my doorway. My best friend since college. Wearing her running clothes and a face full of barely controlled anger. We need to talk, she said. She pushed past me into the apartment. She froze seeing Rick's yoga mat in my living room. Monica's pregnancy books scattered on my coffee table. Oh my God, it's true. What's true? Already knew. Jessica had connections everywhere. The gym, the charity groups, the invisible network of information that flowed through Seattle's rich people. I was at the gym yesterday. Monica was holding court at the smoothie bar. Telling anyone who'd listen how she'd finally put that career woman in her place. Jessica's hands clenched around her water bottle. She said Daniel deserved better than a wife who thought she was so important. Said you were jealous of her pregnancy. That's why you had to be removed. Like a stain or a problem. There's more, Jessica continued. Her voice dropped. She's been planning this since she got pregnant. 9 months, Emma. She told her book club you'd probably try to claim mental problems from work stress. So they needed to act fast before you had a breakdown that would make things complicated. I sank onto the fold-down bed which groaned under even my light weight. They'd taken my success and turned it into a weapon. Made my hard work look like evidence of craziness. The careful way they destroyed my character was almost impressive. What are you going to do? Jessica asked, sitting next to me. I looked at the park folder. Then at my phone where the screenshots waited like loaded guns. I'm going to give them exactly what they want, I said. And then I'm going to disappear with everything they never knew they needed. Jessica squeezed my hand before leaving. Her last words echoed in the guest room. Whatever you're planning, be careful. And if you need anything, money, a place to stay, proof you were somewhere else, just call. After she left, I sat in that cramped space for exactly 7 minutes. I let myself have that small window of stillness before becoming someone Monica and Daniel had never met. A planner who understood that revenge needed the same careful planning as any company takeover. That afternoon, while Monica had her pregnancy yoga teacher in my living room and Rick did what he called a creative thinking session on my balcony, I slipped out with my laptop bag. I had a story about an emergency client meeting. The lie came easy. After all, I'd been trained by experts in lying. My first stop was a coffee shop 30 blocks away where no one from Daniel's circle would go. I opened my laptop and started creating what I would later think of as my war documents. Every receipt, every invoice, every bank statement from the last 8 years appeared from my cloud storage. The kitchen fix alone had cost $40,000. Special stones, European appliances, custom cabinets that Monica was now filling with her organic pregnancy vitamins. The proof was overwhelming in my favor. The custom furniture from the downtown showroom. The smart home system that Daniel could never figure out. Installed with my bonus from the Henderson account. Even the art on the walls. Pieces I'd carefully collected from new artists who were now famous names. All bought with my money. All traceable through my business credit card. My phone buzzed. Stephen Park's assistant, a wonderfully efficient woman named Patricia, spoke with a kind of clarity that made hard things simple. Ms. Chen, Mr. Park wanted me to confirm you're accepting the position. The contract is ready for you to sign. We can arrange for the moving team to start right away. How soon? I asked, watching a couple at the next table share a cake, happily unaware that marriages could explode without warning. We could have you in Tokyo within 3 weeks. The apartment is already empty and furnished. Your signing bonus of $300,000 would be put in your account when you sign the contract. $300,000. Enough to start fresh without looking back. Without begging. Without giving in. Send the contract, I heard myself say. I'll sign it today. After ending the call, I sat in my car in the parking garage. I stared at the concrete wall in front of me. This building where Daniel and I had lived for 6 years suddenly felt like a grave I'd been buried in alive. But now I could see light. Could feel the dirt moving above me as I clawed my way out. The next morning, Wednesday, I met with Linda Martinez. Not my lawyer friend but my actual attorney. The one who'd helped me set up my business to protect it from exactly this kind of situation. Her office smelled of leather chairs and old money. The kind of place where life-changing conversations happened in calm voices. The apartment lease is in your name only, she confirmed. She studied the documents I brought. Daniel insisted on that, didn't he? To protect his things from your business risks. She smiled. The expression was sharp as a knife. Funny how that works out. You can end the lease with 90 days notice. Or transfer it to him if he qualifies financially. Based on what you've shown me about his income, he doesn't. Thursday's mission was the money. I arrived at Bank of America at 10 in the morning sharp. My personal banker Thomas had been managing my accounts for 7 years. The joint account held exactly $4,200. Grocery and utility money. Everything else, the real money, sat in my business accounts that Daniel couldn't touch. I need to close the joint account and remove Daniel as someone who gets my stuff from everything else, I told Thomas. He didn't even blink. In his line of work, he'd probably seen every version of marriage destruction. Will you be needing new cards? He asked, fingers already flying across his keyboard. Everything new. New numbers, new passwords, new everything. The credit cards Daniel carried. The ones he used for his expensive lunches with clients. His golf club membership. His monthly wine subscription. All cancelled with a few keystrokes. By the time he tried to use them, I'd be gone. He'd have to explain to the waiter why his card didn't work. Friday brought the movers. Not for the actual move that would come later, but for the assessment. I met them at a storage place in Tacoma where they wrote down everything I planned to take. The list was long and perfectly legal. Every item photographed. Every receipt matched. The moving coordinator, a former Army logistics officer named Marcus, liked my attention to detail. Monday morning, 9 o'clock sharp, he confirmed. 4 trucks, 25 people. We'll have you cleared out in 5 hours. That evening I called my dad. He answered on the first ring like he'd been waiting by the phone. I'm leaving Daniel, I said simply. Finally he exhaled. I could hear years of holding back in that single word. That man never deserved you. I never liked him. Said he had weak energy. Dad, I'm moving to Tokyo. Silence stretched between California and Seattle. Then, how soon? 3 weeks. I'll send you something, he said. I could hear him moving through his house, opening drawers. Your grandmother's ring. She wore it when she left your grandfather. Did I ever tell you that story? Left him in 1963 when she caught him with his secretary. Took that ring and her kids and never looked back. Saturday morning the package arrived. The ring lay in its small box like a piece of ice, with a note in my dad's careful writing. Wear this in Tokyo. New beginnings deserve old blessings. P.S. I put something else in there. Check under the padding. Beneath the cushion was a thin envelope. Inside, a bank check for $75,000 and another note. My secret savings. I always said it was for when you finally decided to fly. Consider this my permission to soar. My dad still protecting me. Tears came then. Silent and steady. I sat in that horrible guest room holding a ring worn by a woman who'd refused to make herself small for anyone's comfort. I wiped my tears with my hand. I carefully placed the ring back in its box. The bank check felt unreal in my hands. My dad reaching across distance itself to fund my escape. I tucked everything into my laptop bag, the one place in this prison where privacy still existed. I came out of the guest room to find Monica directing a catering team through my kitchen. "Oh, Emma, perfect timing," she chirped. She didn't bother to look at me while she pointed the delivery people toward my dining room. "We're having a little dinner party tonight. Nothing fancy. Just some of Daniel's colleagues from the firm. You don't mind, do you? The question wasn't really a question. She'd already arranged my silver on the table. The set my aunt had given me as a wedding gift. My crystal glasses caught the afternoon light. Arranged with the precision of someone who'd been planning this show for weeks. Who's coming? Yes. Though the damage was already done. The Andersons, the Thompsons. That new partner Daniel's been trying to impress. Mitchell something. Maybe 15 people total. She finally looked at me. Her hand making those endless circles on her belly. You'll join us, won't you? Though perhaps you could eat in the kitchen. We're a bit tight on space. By 8 that evening my apartment had transformed into Monica's stage. She floated between guests in a flowing dress that showed her pregnancy while somehow staying elegant. She accepted compliments on her home with the practiced grace of someone who'd rehearsed every response. Daniel's colleagues and their wives gathered in my living room. They admired the view I paid for. The furniture I'd chosen. The art I'd collected. Monica, this space is absolutely stunning, gushed Mrs. Anderson, the senior partner's wife whose approval could make or break careers at the firm. You have such beautiful taste. Thank you so much, Monica purred. Her hand resting on my Danish table. We've worked so hard to make it perfect for the baby. I stood in the corner holding a glass of wine I couldn't bring myself to drink. I watched this elaborate theft unfold in real time. Daniel moved through the room with unusual confidence. Playing the successful host in the home he contributed nothing toward. Sometimes glancing at me with something between warning and smugness. Excuse me, Mrs. Thompson appeared at my elbow. Her voice pitched low with confusion. I'm sorry, but who are you? Are you with the catering team? The room didn't go silent, but I felt the shift in attention. The subtle turn of heads waiting for my response. Daniel started moving toward us. His face already arranging itself into an explanation. But I spoke first. I'm Emma Chen, Daniel's wife. I own this apartment. Mrs. Thompson's eyebrows climbed toward her hairline. I'm so sorry. I just assumed. Monica seemed to be. It's an easy mistake, I said. My voice carrying just enough edge to make Daniel freeze mid-step. I'm staying in the guest room temporarily while Monica and Rick prepare for their baby. The confusion rippling through the room was almost worth the shame. Almost. Mrs. Anderson's sharp eyes moved between Monica, Daniel and me. She was calculating social dynamics with the precision of someone who'd navigated Seattle society for decades. How generous of you, she finally said. Though her tone suggested she found it something else entirely. Monica swooped in then. All gracious smiles and deflection. Emma's been so helpful. She works such long hours anyway. The guest room is really more practical for her schedule. The evening got worse from there. I retreated to the kitchen under the pretense of checking on the caterers. Really to escape the suffocating show of my own erasure. That's where Rick found me an hour later. Wine flushing his cheeks and loosening his already minimal filter. You know, you're really lucky, he slurred. He leaned against my refrigerator with the confidence of someone who'd never been told he was unwelcome. Monica wanted you gone completely. Day 1. Out on the street. How fortunate for me, I managed. I watched him sway slightly. But Daniel's smart man, he said. No. Rick wagged his finger for emphasis. He said we need her rent money for a few more weeks. Just until the next bonus time. Then he made a gesture like throwing garbage. Then you can go. The words landed exactly as intended. Not like a surprise but like confirmation of what I'd already suspected. I wasn't just being replaced. I was being financially drained first. Squeezed for every last dollar before being thrown away. Interesting, I said. I filed this confession away with all the other evidence I'd been collecting. Rick grabbed an open bottle of wine from the counter. A $300 bottle I'd been saving for something special. He poured himself another glass. Monica's got it all figured out. Always has. Even before. He stopped himself, suddenly aware he might be saying too much. Before what? Prompted. But he was already shuffling back towards the party, muttering about finding his wife. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of forced smiles and careful avoidance. I watched Monica hold court in my living room. Watched Daniel accept congratulations on his beautiful home. Watched my life being rewritten in real time with me cast as barely a footnote. Then at precisely 11:15, Monica's hand flew to her stomach. "Oh," she gasped loud enough to halt conversations. "No. Daniel, something's wrong." The performance was magnificent. Daniel rushed to her side. Guests parted like the sea. Within minutes they were heading for the door. Monica leaning heavily on her brother while insisting she didn't want to worry anyone. "Emma will handle cleanup," Daniel called over his shoulder. "Won't you, darling?" The door closed on their manufactured emergency. It left me with Rick, 15 confused guests, and the wreckage of a dinner party I hadn't thrown. Mrs. Anderson lingered, her keen eyes taking in the scene with the clarity of someone who'd witnessed plenty of marriage disasters. "Interesting evening," she said carefully, then leaned closer. "I knew your mother, before she passed. She would not have tolerated this." She left before I could respond. But her words stayed as I spent the next 3 hours cleaning up. Rick sprawled on my sofa. He asked periodically if I could bring him water or perhaps something to eat. The cramps I knew would magically resolve the moment Daniel confirmed I'd handled everything. 3 in the morning my phone buzzed. Jessica had sent a series of screenshots that made my blood turn to ice. Monica's private Instagram, the one she thought was secure, told a different story than the one they'd been selling. Posts from months ago showed my apartment. "Can't wait to raise our baby here." Dated 3 weeks before she'd announced her pregnancy to Daniel. Planning the nursery in our new home from 8 weeks ago. So grateful everything is falling into place from 5 months back. This wasn't random. This was planned, calculated, done with the precision of a robbery. And I'd been marked from the beginning. I stared at Jessica's screenshots until my eyes burned. The timestamp showing 3:52 a.m. Rick was now snoring on my sofa. His empty wine glass tipped sideways on my coffee table. It left a ring that would normally have sent me scrambling for protection. Instead I left it there. Small rebellion. I walked to my bedroom window. The city sparkled below. Indifferent to the quiet destruction of marriages, I made my final decision. Monday would be my Independence Day. Barely slept, running through plans in my mind with the precision I usually reserved for multi-million-dollar deals. At 6 in the morning I rose. Showered in the guest bathroom with its weak water pressure. Dressed carefully. Black pants, white silk shirt. Around my neck my grandmother's ring on a chain. The outfit of someone conducting serious business. By 8:45 I stood in the lobby, watching through the glass doors as 4 large trucks turned onto our street. The doorman Robert, who'd witnessed 8 years of my marriage, gave me a knowing nod. "Big day, Mrs. Chen." "The biggest, Robert. And it's Miss Chen now." At exactly 9:25 movers flooded through the entrance with the coordinated precision of a military operation. Marcus, the lead coordinator, approached with his clipboard and a team of professionals who knew exactly what they were doing. I'd provided floor plans, photographs, and detailed lists. Every piece tagged with colored dots. Green for take, red for leave. The red items were few. Daniel's gaming chair. The Murphy bed. A lamp Monica had brought from her old apartment. "We'll start with the large furniture," Marcus confirmed. "Work our way down to boxes. 4 hours, maybe 5. Perfect." I handed him an envelope. "Coffee and breakfast are in the truck outside for your team. They'll need the energy." The elevator began its steady rhythm. Empty down full. My sectional sofa went first. The one I'd special ordered from Denmark after landing the Patterson account. Then the dining table where just hours ago Monica had held court with Daniel's colleagues. Each piece that disappeared felt like removing a disease. Necessary and overdue. The noise finally broke through the Monday morning stillness. Rick appeared first. Shuffling out in silk pajamas that probably cost more than most people's rent. His hair in complete mess. What's happening? Why are there people here? I'm moving out, I said simply, checking off items on my list as movers carried my bookshelf past us. Monica suggested I should leave by the weekend. Remember, I'm simply taking her advice. His face went through a series of expressions as his hungover brain tried to process the scene. Then he saw them carrying the television. The 90-inch screen I'd bought myself for my birthday. Something finally clicked. Wait. You can't take that. We use that. You use things I paid for, I corrected. There's a difference between using and owning. Monica's entrance was more dramatic. She flew out of my bedroom, their bedroom now apparently, wearing a silk robe that opened over her pregnant belly. Her face twisted in anger. Stop right now. You can't do this. Marcus and his team didn't even pause. They'd been well briefed on the possibility of drama. You can't take everything. Monica's voice hit a pitch that made several movers wince. This is insane. This is stealing. Pulled out my phone, swiping to the folder I'd carefully prepared. Would you like to see the receipts? The sofa purchased April 2022, paid from my business account. The dining table, January 2021, my yearly bonus. The kitchen appliances. I looked up at her with the sweetest smile I could manage. Oh mine. Every single piece. But we live here, she sputtered. She watched as movers wrapped my artwork in protective blankets. You live in a space I'm no longer paying for, I clarified. How you choose to furnish it is your concern. Daniel emerged last. The sight of him almost made me laugh. His hair stood at strange angles. Yesterday's shirt buttoned wrong. His face puffy from wine and sleep. He took in the scene. The empty living room. The bare walls. His sister near tears. His expression cycled through confusion, understanding, and finally panic. Emma, we need to talk about this. We needed to talk before you attacked me with your sister's invasion. That window has closed. Let's be reasonable, he said. The phrase he always used when he wanted me to give in. This is extreme. Extreme, I watched as movers carried our bed frame past us. The king-size bed where he'd made promises he'd never intended to keep. Extreme was suggesting I move to the guest room. This is just practical. Where are we supposed to sleep? He actually sounded confused. As if furniture appeared magically without someone purchasing it. That sounds like a you problem, Daniel. Perhaps Rick's creative consulting can create a solution. Monica had moved to tears now. Her hand pressed to her belly in that protective gesture that had worked so many times before. How can you do this to a pregnant woman? To your family. Family. The word tasted bitter. Family doesn't kick family out to storage rooms. Family doesn't plan secret attacks for 9 months. Family doesn't treat each other like unwanted guests in their own homes. Marcus approached. His expression carefully blank. Miss Chin, we're almost done. Just the kitchen items and your office furniture. Daniel, Monica grabbed her brother's arm. Her voice urgent. Do something. Call someone. This can't be legal. Oh, it's completely legal, I said. I pulled out the documentation Linda had prepared. Every item being removed was purchased by me with my money from my accounts. The receipts are all here. Would you like copies for your records? The movers were efficient, systematic, thorough. My coffee maker, the one Monica had been using every morning, disappeared into a box. The smart home system got disconnected. It left them with basic switches and manual controls. Even the expensive water filter I'd installed. As the last boxes loaded, I looked around the empty apartment. The space looked massive without furniture. Hollow and echoing. Monica stood in what was once our living room. Tears streaming down her face. Rick had his phone out. Probably trying to figure out how to spin this on Instagram. Daniel stood frozen, still processing. One more thing, I said. I pulled out the final document. Lease. I held the lease document in my hand. Watching Daniel's face drain of color as he recognized the letterhead from our building management company. This lease is in my name alone, I said. My voice steady despite the adrenaline rushing through me. You insisted on it, remember. To protect your things from any potential business risks. The building management has already been told that, as of Wednesday, you're trespassing. You have 72 hours. The words hung in the empty apartment like a death sentence. Daniel's mouth opened and closed. No sound coming out. Monica clutched her belly, but even that gesture had lost its power. Rick stood frozen. His phone still raised, as if documenting this moment could somehow change its reality. 72 hours, Monica's voice cracked. But where will we go? That's no longer my concern. I turned toward the door where Marcus waited with the final inventory sheet for my signature. You wanted me gone by the weekend. Consider your wish granted. The elevator ride down felt like rising from hell into daylight. Robert held the lobby door open as I walked through for the last time as Mrs. Chen. I heard him murmur, "Well done, ma'am." My car was already packed with essential items. Clothes, documents, my grandmother's ring still warm against my throat. The drive to Seattle-Tacoma Airport took exactly 47 minutes, during which my phone rang constantly. I'd switched it to silent, but the screen lit up with name after name. Daniel, Monica, Rick, and then surprisingly Daniel's mother, Catherine. Catherine Chen, the woman who'd spent 8 years treating me like a stranger at family dinners. Who'd repeatedly asked Daniel when he was going to find someone more suitable. She was suddenly desperate to reach the unsuitable daughter-in-law she'd never wanted. I waited until I was seated in the first-class lounge, a glass of champagne in hand before listening to the voicemails. They played like a symphony of panic, each movement more frantic than the last. Daniel's first message attempted authority. "Emma, this is ridiculous. Call me back immediately so we can sort this out like adults." His seventh message had devolved to begging. "Please, we need to talk. You can't just leave us with nothing. This is your home too." Monica's messages were pure hysteria. "You can't do this. We have nowhere to go. Think about the baby. How can you be so heartless?" Rick had managed only one confused message. "Hey Emma, could you at least tell us how the coffee maker works? We can't figure it out." But Catherine's message was the most revealing. "Emma dear, there seems to be some misunderstanding. Daniel needs you to be reasonable. The family reputation is at stake here. Call me back immediately." The family reputation. Not concern for my well-being. Not acknowledgement of the betrayal. Just worry about how this would look at the country club. 4 hours into my flight to Tokyo, while I was somewhere over the Pacific Ocean, my phone connected to the plane's Wi-Fi. The messages resumed with renewed intensity. But it was Tuesday morning's call from Monica that provided the most satisfaction. I was settling into my new apartment. Sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Tokyo Bay when her number appeared on my screen. This time I answered. "Daniel said you have a trust fund," she sobbed without preamble. "He said there was inheritance money. Family money you were hiding. Where is it, Emma? We need it." I set down my coffee, made with a simple machine that didn't require engineering to operate. I let her words hang between continents. "Monica, there is no trust fund. There never was. You're lying." Her voice pitched higher, desperation making her shrill. "Daniel said your mother left money. He said you had investments, hidden accounts. My mother left medical bills and a $75,000 life insurance policy that barely covered her final expenses," I said calmly. "Every penny you've been living on. Every piece of furniture you've been using. Every luxury you've enjoyed. It all came from my consulting firm. The business Daniel called my little hobby at dinner parties." Silence then. "But Daniel promised. He said once you were gone we'd have access to money that never existed," I finished. "He lied to you, Monica. Or maybe he lied to himself so completely he believed it. Either way, you've been conned by your own brother." The sound she made wasn't quite crying. Wasn't quite screaming. Something raw and defeated. "We have nothing. We have nowhere to go. The landlord locked us out this morning. Daniel's credit cards don't work. We're sitting in Rick's car with our suitcases." "That sounds difficult," I said, surprising myself with the absence of satisfaction I'd expected to feel. Instead there was just emptiness. A hollow where my marriage used to live. By Wednesday, the complete collapse had begun. Jessica, ever my faithful information network, called with updates. Daniel had been forced to explain to his colleagues why he'd suddenly lost his fancy address. The story spread through his firm like wildfire. How he tried to steal his successful wife's home and ended up homeless himself. The Andersons, whose dinner party had been the final humiliation, were particularly vocal in their disapproval. Mitchell, that new partner Daniel was trying to impress. He's telling everyone, Jessica reported with barely hidden glee. The whole firm knows Daniel was basically a kept man who bit the hand that fed him. Monica and Rick had found emergency housing in a 2-bedroom apartment in Renton. A far cry from the Seattle penthouse she'd commandeered. Her Instagram had gone dark. The carefully curated lifestyle she'd documented now impossible to maintain. The baby's nursery she'd planned in my bedroom would now be a corner of a cramped space that probably smelled of other people's cooking. Had windows facing a brick wall. Daniel had moved back to his parents' house in Bellevue. A 44-year-old man returning to his childhood bedroom with nothing but wounded pride and empty promises. Catherine, I heard through mutual friends, was mortified. Her successful designer son reduced to a warning story about greed and ingratitude. Thursday evening Tokyo time, I finally called my dad. He answered on the first ring as if he'd been waiting by the phone since I'd left Seattle. Tell me you're safe, he said without preamble. I'm safe, Dad. I'm in Tokyo. I got the job, the apartment, everything. The silence on the other end of the phone stretched for a moment before my dad exhaled. A sound that carried 8 decades of wisdom and worry. Good, he finally said. And Daniel, the family. They're managing, I replied. Which was generous considering what I knew about their circumstances. 4 months had passed since that Monday morning exodus. Tokyo had become more than just an escape. It had become home. My office at Park Industries occupied a corner of the 45th floor with windows that stretched from floor to ceiling, revealing a view of Tokyo Bay that still made me pause during conference calls. The space was mine to design. I'd chosen clean lines, warm woods, and a single piece of art. A painting by a local artist that reminded me of new beginnings. My team of 40 professionals treated me with the kind of respect I'd forgotten existed. They called me Miss Chen. Not because rules demanded it, but because they genuinely valued my knowledge. During meetings when I spoke, people took notes. When I suggested strategies, they were done. There was no subtle undermining. No whispered comments about aggressive women. No need to soften my skills to protect fragile egos. The apartment Stevens Company had provided exceeded every expectation. 35th floor, 3 bedrooms though I lived alone. A kitchen where I cooked whatever I wanted without commentary. A living room I'd furnished exactly to my taste. No committee decisions. No negotiations about color schemes. No justifying why I preferred modern over traditional. Every morning I woke to sunlight reflecting off the bay. Made coffee in peaceful silence. Felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Contentment. My phone dinged with an email notification. The sender made me pause. Daniel Chen. The subject line read, "Please read important." I almost deleted it immediately, but curiosity won. 8 pages of dense text filled my screen. A rambling manifesto of regret, self-pity, and transparent manipulation. I've been in therapy, he wrote. As if 3 months of counseling could undo 8 years of diminishment. I understand now how I failed you. How I let family dynamics cloud my judgment. We had something special, Emma. We could have that again. The delusion was breathtaking. He wrote about our early days. Conveniently editing out his constant need to be the more successful one. His subtle sabotage of my goals. His family's treatment of me as an outsider. He mentioned marriage counseling, communication workshops. Even suggested I could keep my Tokyo job and commute. The logistics alone were laughable. 18-hour flights for a marriage that had been dead long before Monica arrived. I know you're angry, one paragraph read. But anger fades. Love remains. Love. He'd chosen his sister over his wife. Conspired to steal my home. Tried to drain my bank accounts. Now he spoke of love like he understood the concept. I forwarded the entire message to Linda, my lawyer, with a single line. Please add to harassment documentation. No response needed. The rest of the story reached me through professional networks and Jessica's detailed intelligence reports. Monica had delivered a healthy baby girl 3 weeks ago. The Instagram announcement was sparse. A single photo in what was clearly a cramped apartment. No designer nursery. No professional photography. The caption read simply "Welcome to the world, Sophia." The comments section, Jessica noted with satisfaction, was notably thin. The society crowd had moved on to fresher scandals. Rick, according to LinkedIn, was now a freelance creative consultant, which translated to unemployed but unwilling to admit it. His last post about exciting new ventures had 4 likes. All from family members. The smoothie video that had been his claim to fame was buried so deep in his profile that new visitors would never find it. But Daniel's fall had been the most complete. The firm had conducted a restructuring that eliminated his position. Corporate speak for "Your scandal embarrassed us and you need to leave." He'd updated his LinkedIn to seeking new opportunities. But in architecture, reputation was everything. Who would hire a designer who tried to design his own wife out of her home? Jessica called one evening while I was preparing dinner. A simple noodle dish I could make exactly how I liked it. With no one complaining about spice or suggesting improvements. "You'll never guess who I saw at Target," she said without preamble. Catherine Chen buying generic brands and looking like she'd aged 15 years. Daniel living with his parents. A man who'd spent years building an image of success. Now dependent on the charity of parents who'd expected him to be their retirement plan. Not the other way around. And get this, Jessica continued. Margaret Thompson told me that Monica applied for a job at Target. In retail. Full-time. Can you imagine? The woman who acted like employment was beneath her. Folding clothes for women who used to attend her parties. I stirred my noodles. Feeling an emotion I couldn't quite name. Not satisfaction exactly. Not pity either. Something more complex. Like watching a building you once lived in being torn down. Necessary but tinged with the memory of what it once meant. That night, unable to sleep, I stood on my balcony overlooking the Tokyo skyline. The city pulsed with life below. A place where no one knew me as Mrs. Chen. Where my success wasn't threatening. Where I could build something entirely my own. My phone buzzed with a text from my dad. "Your grandmother would be proud. You didn't just leave a bad situation. You built something better." He was right. They'd wanted me gone. Erased from their picture like an inconvenient detail. But in removing me, they'd removed the foundation everything else rested on. I hadn't destroyed them. I'd simply stopped holding them up. The tears that came then weren't for Daniel. For the marriage that had died. Or even for the years I'd wasted trying to make myself smaller. They were tears of relief. Of recognition. Of finally understanding that walking away wasn't giving up. It was the greatest victory of all. If this story of calculated revenge spoke to you, hit that like button right now. My favorite part was when Emma revealed the lease was in her name alone. Watching their faces realize the trust fund never existed. What was your favorite moment of justice? Drop it in the comments below. Don't miss more powerful stories of betrayal and triumph. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone. It's removing yourself from their life and watching them realize they destroyed themselves. Emma didn't need to plot elaborate schemes or seek vindictive payback. She simply stopped being the foundation that held up their house of cards. When she walked away, she took with her everything they'd taken for granted. Her money. Her stability. Her willingness to be treated as less than. Daniel thought he was the prize. That Emma would always be there, grateful for his presence. Monica thought she could waltz in and claim what someone else had built. They both learned too late that you can't steal from someone who owns everything. You can only lose access when they decide you're no longer worth their time. Today Emma thrives in Tokyo. Leading a team that respects her. Living in a home that's truly hers. building a life where her success is celebrated, not resented. Meanwhile, Daniel explains to potential employers why there's a gap in his resume. Monica folds clothes at retail, wondering how she went from Penthouse to Target. Rick still tries to make his creative consulting sound impressive. Catherine avoids her book club where everyone knows the story. The moral: know your worth. Build your own foundation. Never let anyone convince you that your success is negotiable. And if someone tries to take what's yours, remember that the best revenge is living well while they learn to live without you. Emma's story reminds us that power doesn't come from fighting. It comes from knowing when to walk away and having the strength to take everything you built with you. Thank you for watching Women's Revenge. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of women who refused to be broken and came out stronger on the other side.